popular phones. The experience is 15 minutes long. Enjoy the program.
Do you want to see where it all began?
Yes.
Excellent. For in a brief moment, we'll go on a fascinating journey. In the city of David, every stone has a story to tell. My name is Amos, and I've been searching those stories all my life with the help of a shovel and with the help of the Bible. The two of them together sometimes manage to take me back 3,000 years to the day when the soldiers of King David first laid their eyes on the Jebusite city of Jerusalem.
And the king and his men went to Jerusalem, to the Jebusite inhabitants of the land. What did King David see when he looked at this low hill with the Jebusite city on top? Maybe the proximity to Mount Moriah, the place that the Bible associates with the binding of Isaac. Maybe the location of the city, situated between the scattered tribes you wish to unite into a kingdom. And maybe the fortifications protecting the city that would one day become his capital. But first of all, how would King David succeed in capturing such a fortified city? The valley surrounding the city, the Guy Valley to the west and the Kidron Valley to the east, were far deeper than they are today, and above them there was a high wall. The sun is setting, and despite these vast fortifications, tonight the city will be captured.
Close your eyes. Try to imagine King David's soldiers scaling up the dry riverbed in the darkness, approaching the vast walls led by Yoav ben Tzruya. Swords are drawn, hearts are beating. They are crawling in the darkness through the tunnels in the rock. The battle begins. The soldiers of David are capturing the Jebusite city. 3,000 years ago, the first dawn broke over Jerusalem as the capital of the unified tribes of Israel. New houses were built in the city.
And above the Jebusite fortress, at the top of the hill, King David built his palace. And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David, and cedar trees, and carpenters, and masons, and they built David a palace. The Bible relates that in the days of King Solomon, son of David, Jerusalem developed and flourished and became the capital of a vast kingdom. A kingdom with thriving trade from Turkey and the hills of Lebanon in the north all the way to the Arabian Peninsula, the location of the Kingdom of Sheba.
But it seems to me that the crowning moment of Solomon's days was building just to the north of the king's palace, the temple.
In the place of the binding of Isaac, the temple is now being built, with the sacrificial altar and the two pillars in front of it, Yachin and Boaz. Then said Solomon, "The Lord has said he would dwell in a thick cloud." After the death of Solomon, the unified kingdom split into two separate kingdoms, Judah and Israel. For around 200 years, the two kingdoms coexist, and in Jerusalem, the capital of Judah, kings come and kings go. Until the year 722 BCE, while King Hezekiah rules Judah, the northern kingdom of Israel is captured by the Assyrians who come from the east.
Thousands of horrified refugees escaped from the kingdom of Israel to Jerusalem. Many of them apparently settled there on the western hill outside the walls of the city of David.
But around 15 years after Israel is captured, the relative calm in Jerusalem is broken. Hezekiah, king of Judah, also decides to rebel against the Assyrians, and the threat comes closer and closer to Jerusalem. Hezekiah builds a thick wall around the neighborhoods on the western hill. He diverts the water from the Gihon spring to flow through a hidden tunnel in the rock into a large reservoir. The reservoir and the wall of the new city now protect the city's water sources from the enemy. As written in the Bible, why should the kings of Assyria come and find much water?
The Hezekiah Tunnel project is underway. If you listen closely, you can still hear echoes of these ancient voices. The two groups of quarrymen making their way towards each other through the thick of the rock.
And on the day that the two groups of men tunneling toward each other met, they greeted each other axe to axe. And the water flowed from the source to the pool, 1,200 cubits. The preparations for war have been completed. The Assyrians have invaded the kingdom of Judah, and Sancherib's armies are stationed on all the hills surrounding the city. Facing them, all alone, stands the prophet Isaiah. Therefore, thus says the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there. By the way that he came, by the same he shall return, and shall not come into this city, says the Lord.
And what do you think happened? The Bible relates that the residents of the city woke up one day and saw that the Assyrian siege had been lifted. Jerusalem was saved.
More than a century passed until a new danger threatened the city, the Babylonians. The prophet Jeremiah prophesies that the city will be destroyed, for a city that has no justice loses its right to exist.
Jeremiah entreats Zedekiah, the last king of Judah, to surrender to the Babylonians, but the king refuses to listen. As the Babylonians approach the city, the prophet who preached surrender finds himself imprisoned in a pit. Can you hear the Babylonian troops laying siege to the city? From here, from inside the pit, everything sounds so distant. The prophet is in prison, helpless, and there, up above, the city is about to be destroyed. Jerusalem is about to go up in flames, and all the water in the Gihon spring will not put the fire out.
Jerusalem was resettled in the days of the Second Temple, and then it was ruined by the Romans. For 2,000 years the city passed from hand to hand, but the Jewish people never forgot its eternal capital. Towards the end of the 19th century, when the new neighborhoods were built outside the walls of the old city, the Miotis family was the first to build its home in the city of David. On the opposite slope, a neighborhood of Yemenite Jews was established and later abandoned. However, in the early 1990s, the Ir David Foundation reestablished a Jewish residential community in the city of David within the national park surrounding the walls of Jerusalem.
3,000 years after King David, we have returned to the hill where it all began.
Taking a walk in Ir David today is much like traveling through a magical time tunnel. From here, from the ancient heart of Jerusalem, the city has expanded generation after generation. Neighborhood by neighborhood, Jerusalem is renewed as the eternal capital of the state of Israel. Boys and girls are playing in Jerusalem streets again, buildings from all eras adorn it. And at its heart, one little hill stands eternal. The hill of the city of David, the place from which everything began.